FF 95.9 LPFM, more at Fargo, RadioFreeFargo.org, where we're streaming, where you can donate, where you can check out who's coming up, who's on Monday, what's on first. I can tell you for sure, though, what's happening on Thursday here in the best radio station in downtown Fargo. Again, welcome. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. That's the hour you're into now. I'm Wilson. We're going to talk about cannabis in a positive light. We're going to talk about legalization stuff. We're going to talk about just stuff that pertains to cannabis. We'll talk about North Dakota and what's going on here. We'll move into South Dakota a little bit, and then we'll just start playing around a little. I got stuff to talk about, so we're going to talk about it. All right. So, again, thanks for checking us out here, KRFF 95.9 LPFM. Right before me was Side Stage with Trav. He does noon to 3, and he does a bang-up job. He makes me, work harder, and I still, am just me. But, again, cannabis news and cannabis information isn't happening anywhere else on your radio dial, certainly locally. So you can thank KRFF for allowing me to tell you about the benefits of cannabis in an unbiased, well, maybe it is biased, but whatever. Stop talking to me. Stop looking at me too, buddy. I see you over there. But anyway, right after me then is Stinky Arts Music Mart. However, not this week, but usually after me from 5 to 6. It's Stinky Arts Music Mart, and then Locals on the 8, then Radio Madness, and then Black Ritual. I think is right. I even Googled it right before I came on, but I keep thinking there's a ring there. But anyway, 4 to 5, I get in here. 4:20, open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and that's not no different gonna be today. Now, the weather here in Fargo is pretty high. In fact, it's stupid high. And I tried to tell the weather to stop being so stupid high, but he said some stuff about, you're a hypocrite, go back into your central air apartment, and I mumbled some stuff like, you got me, and I went back inside. But again, it's pretty hot out. It's supposed to get a little cooler. My kid was coming back from South Dakota today in the car, somewhere, say, south of Dickinson. It was only 74 degrees, and I wanted to reach in through the phone and slap both of them. You know what I mean? But anyway, it's pretty high here in Fargo. We're going to talk about the benefits of cannabis. Again, the New Life Center helps people who are homeless and hurting go from merely surviving to truly thriving. Their aim is to help people in need discover value and find hope. The New Life Center has evolved into a multifaceted emergency and crisis service center. To learn more about NLC, visit their website at www.fargonlc.org or give them a call at 701-235-4453. And I believe that cannabis was created by the Almighty God, and I go to Antioch Church in South Fargo Sunday mornings to tell him that I appreciate it. And you could join me as well. This show is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy, Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook or .com on the webs. You can go to Tochi Products downtown here. You can go in there. You can buy it in there. There's other things too, like colloidal silver that Black Cottage Alchemy puts out. Again, the body butter is something you should have in the camper. You should have a couple of them. And I'm dealing with my own thing. We'll talk about it in the next segment, about kicking this kratom, blah, 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 blah. But, and fighting some sort of weird thing in my apartment. I don't know if it's mold, blah, 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 blah. But the body butter has really helped my skin, which has started to take a hit from all this. Becky's Body Butter, Black Cottage Alchemy. Go get you some. They're sponsoring this show. Thank you for that. Orange Records, however, also has the ND for Freedom and Cannabis Act petition. So you can get a bracelet in there too, I believe. But that's what's going on in North Dakota. When you're in Tochi Products, getting Black Cottage Alchemy products, you can sign the ND for Freedom and Cannabis Act petition as well. 21 plus to possess, 6 plants immature, 6 plants mature, licensed business. And just a great measure that's, again, January's coming up. So if you haven't contributed or helped as best as you can, then slap yourself upside the face and tell yourself that you're the reason that we can't get cannabis legalized in the state of North Dakota. Now, before we go any further, if there's any new listeners here, please put your right hand up in the air and say, I do solemnly swear, so help me God, to never call cannabis anything but cannabis. No dope, no marijuana, no weed. So help you God. Welcome. Okay, now I think we've got all the red tape out of the way. Let's jump into the first song I got here for you. I got a little something for everybody. It's all new. It's all put out in 2021. This is The Day You Came, Soja with Allie Campbell. Come back, everybody. The Day You Came, brand new Soja, Revolution, and Allie Campbell. If you don't know who Allie Campbell is, that is the lead man from UB40, the Red Wine guy. Shout out to them. That was a great song. Welcome back. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson on the best radio station in the world, KRFF 95.9. RadioFreeFargo.org. You can donate there. You can check out the schedule, who's coming up, what they're talking about, what they're playing. la-di-da-di-dee. But we here at Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, we talk about cannabis. We talk about cannabis in a positive light. We talk about cannabis legalization, general cannabis news. I like to stick around locally because that's where the Canna-Talk ND bar came in. But there just ain't a whole lot going on. So do I just stay at home until there's some news drummed up for North Dakota? Of course not. I'm going to still try to educate you all on the benefits of cannabis and just be a talking head about cannabis in a positive light that I believe is beneficial for each and every one of us for all kinds of different reasons. We've gotten fed lies and we believed them, and it's time to come clean. It's not an evil thing. It's just a plant that grows. And again, I believe that it was created by a creator who wanted us to use it for those particular reasons. And I pray about it. I'm waiting for him to tell me I'm crazy and I shouldn't be leading people down the wrong path. And that just hasn't happened yet. And I can assure you, if I get an audible or whatever, it says, hey, stop talking about it, I'll stop talking about it. But until then, educate yourself, look into cannabis. ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act petition is out, is being circulated. You can go to Orange Records, you can go to Tochi Products, you can go to ndcannabiscaucus.com, find out where it is anywhere else in North Dakota, and sign it. Or go and get you one, print you one off, and do your thing. January 22nd, I believe, is when they need all the signatures in. And so I can assure you they could use some help, and they're waiting for you to help them put them over the top. But again, ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act, 21 plus to possess, 12 plants you can have, licensed business, got to be outside. We'll talk about New York and where you can smoke cannabis there. That's kind of crazy. We'll talk all about that at 4:20. We'll open a big fat bag of cannabis news here on KRFF 95.9. Again, side stage with Trav, noon to 3. Me, 4 to 5, 6 to 7. Usually Stinky Arts Music Mart. That's not going to happen today. But stick around. We have locals on the 8 after that. Radio Madness, and then Black Ritual, which, again, I think there must be a ring in there. But it's not my show. And, again. So here's what's happening with me. And then we'll get cooking. I got some songs up here for you. And then we'll talk about cannabis and positive light at 4:20. But... so anyway, 6 years ago, I kicked tobacco and booze and that sort of thing. 4 years ago, I kicked all felonious, hard narcotics, primarily speed, Adderall, that sort of thing. So for a year, I was clean, and I've always felt like I had ADHD or something that required medicine. I've never went to a doctor because I don't trust them, just like the government and the other group. I don't want to talk about them because they're probably listening to my phone calls. No, they're not, but you know what I'm saying. So there's three groups that tend to exert control over the masses, and I don't trust them. So, but I've got an occupational therapy degree, and I've done a lot of Googling, right? And I've looked at it as far as how I feel, my body is a miss of something. And so I've always believed that maybe I should have been, diagnosed as ADHD as a kid and then had some form of something. So I found kratom. It was natural. It's legal mostly, but I don't know how long that's going to be. So if you believe in kratom, you need to speak out and get on some sort of website to prevent this. I think it's the World Health Organization is trying to make a federal ban of kratom because the U.S. can't do it. And they can't get it passed, so they thought if we can get a federal mandate, well, then they can just use that to tell us that you can't. But 3 years ago, I found it. It was a lifesaver, but it became an addiction. And 3 years later, now it's got its claws in me deep. So Saturday, I decided, I feel like I'm still going to need something, but I ain't going to know until I get back to the baseline. So keep me in your thoughts. I got a bunch of natural stuff. Of course, hemp and CBD and all that stuff's going to be a part of it. But I've been reducing my doses pretty consistently, and I can assure you these withdrawals from kratom are real. Now, again, when I like something, I really like it, and I make sure I always have it. So that was a problem because it went from the little bit that I could have lived with to now having just like screaming internal body kind of hollerings for it's time to take this particular thing. You didn't take it now. You always used to, and I'm really unhappy with you. That's a real thing that I'm dealing with, and lethargic, kind of whatever. So again, that's where I'm at. So I probably should have stayed home, but I'm not going to do that because that's what quitters do. But if you noticed me slipping a bit, however, my life is full of slipping, so you probably aren't going to tell. But I'm just going to share with you that come Saturday, I'm going completely off. I've spent the last week reducing doses. Most people say you should go from 7 to 8 to 6. Again, that's for girls, and I don't even know what that means. I'm not a politically correct guy. I'm just trying to get through life. Cannabis helps me do that, and the creator upstairs. And from feedback and from people's prayers and vibes. But again, kratom really is something that can become addictive, and I'm suffering from withdrawals as we speak. So again, but it helped me. But what it did then is what I did is I took the last thing that I hadn't became addicted to use for what I think I have ADHD. Now leaves me at the end of this as I detox. Now what? Now people say I can just use straight cannabis. And I mean, I've utilized that my whole life. And there still just wasn't, it still doesn't get me up in the morning. Now, some people say I'm just selfish and I should just get up in the morning, whether I like to get up or not. There's something to be said about that. So maybe I'm just a lazy drug addict who has always chose the easy way. Well, that stops today, or it stops tomorrow specifically. And, Saturday for sure. But yeah, so life is crazy. Let me get this song for you, and then we'll get to Canna-Talk ND. Here's Little Things, Big Thief. Yes, indeed, a little something for you sweater wearers. Little Things, Big Thief. That's brand new here on Radio Free Fargo, KRFF 95.9. I got a little carried away talking about myself, but it is 4:20, so let's talk about cannabis in a positive light on the other side of this little thing. I'll let it play a few seconds, and then we'll get it.
Yo, it's Wilson from Canna-Talk ND. The super awesome show you're getting ready to listen to. I think you should go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll wait. Okay, enjoy the show.
And we're going to fade that out like that. I'm going to pause it like that. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday I get in here. 4:20, we open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and that is what's going to happen right now. First of all, let me tell you about the one thing that's happening in Fargo. As soon as I tell you about Indy for Freedom and Cannabis Act, it is the ballot initiative being presented in the state of North Dakota. 21 plus to possess, 12 plants you can grow, licensed business, be outside. It has until January. It needs a lot of signatures. And even if it doesn't, we need everybody in hooking this thing up. Now we've got this article from Valley News Live. Fargo man sentenced to 9 years in prison for beating death of teen. Which you're like, whoa, what does that got to do with anything? Well, I didn't know either until I read that Evan punched the teen several times in the head during an argument over cannabis prices on August 3rd, 2020. He died in the hospital the next day. Now, you can look at that two different ways, right? You can say, well, this is why we definitely don't want cannabis legalized in our state. Because more of this will happen because they're looking at what had happened over instead of all the kinds of circumstances that was happening. Now, I say that's absolutely horrible to be whacked over a cannabis price. So, again, if there was a legal way to get your medicine, because, again, I contend it's all medicinal. There's really no reports that says that it doesn't help in a lot of cases. Even Dr. Sanjay Gupta has gotten behind it with objective kind of information. So just wanted to mention that was kind of an interesting thing because people, we just say murdered and, it seems like a simple thing, but sometimes mental states, people take things a little more serious than they should. And I think that's what happened in this case because there's no way that any sort of violence should have stemmed from overpriced cannabis. Now, if there was tobacco in it, making me think it's cannabis, then I might stab you too. Just kidding. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Canna-Talk ND on YouTube. You're going to get this without the music on Sunday usually. Maybe Saturday. I'll keep you posted. And you're listening to KRFF 95.9. And I'm going to tell you now about South Dakota. Now, again, isn't that crazy? When I brought up the single subject rule and the judges, they had all the people come and talk. And they go, well, we're going to discuss what we've heard here today and then come back 5 judges. And that was like, what, 2 months? I mean, it's now August. I mean, they don't know what they're going to decide. I say that's bull. I guarantee you they know what they're going to say. And that is why they're hedging. That's what I believe. I believe they know that they're going to say what we don't want them to say, and so it's not going to be popular. And if they came out with it now, then the people that they're going to offend, the cannabis supporters, they're going to get other ballot initiatives. It's not. They're trying to stop the hose. They're trying to, kink the hose and not get any water through. Meanwhile, these guys like South Dakotans for Better Cannabis Laws, they're getting more hoses. And then, in fact, apparently they've got 4 or 5 metaphorical cannabis legalization hoses that they're ready to turn the old water on, the political votey water. However, the judges have definitely decided what they're going to do. So why haven't they came out of deliberation? Why haven't they decided that, in fact, it didn't violate the single subject rule and that cannabis can be allowed recreationally? Because the infrastructure of South Dakota, I believe, is anti-cannabis, pro-booze and pharmaceuticals and corn, and prison for profit, that they're set up to make money that way. And again, cannabis only makes so much money negatively before it starts to do things positively. And then the money gets funneled into different things. It doesn't go to booze and tobacco. We see that in Illinois. They've outsold liquor last 3 months with cannabis. Now, I would argue that crime is down, but man, it is Illinois. I mean, Chicago does live there. So I don't know how safe stinking Illinois is, but I guarantee you cannabis didn't have anything to do with making it more violent. You know what I'm saying? But Chicago is, Chicago. But anyway, I just wanted to say that South Dakotans for Better Cannabis Laws posted that there's going to be a town hall meeting, and the city of Sioux Falls is doing its first reading of 2 cannabis-related ordinances. If passed as proposed, they would, 1, ban all product manufacturing and cultivation in Sioux Falls, so you're going to be out of town. It'll cap licensing at 5 dispensaries, which sounds like very few dispensaries. Charges $100,000 licensing fee. As a guy that can barely pay my rent, that sounds like about $99,000 too much. And then force dispensaries to the edges of the city and into industrial areas that are far away from patients, which really shows kind of a reefer madness, but it also shows just short-sightedness and then sadness, because Walmart, you'll destroy a town with Walmart. I mean, a downtown in a small town will shut down and everything will move outside of where Walmart is. And there's been zoning issues where they fought against Walmart not being so close to kill these small towns. And it doesn't work. They put them right as close as they can to keep them in that city limit so they can get the tax monies and all the monies that Walmart provides. And then argue that they put them far enough away that it shouldn't affect downtown. But it always does. It always does. Drive through a small town that's got a Walmart and see if a Taco Bell hasn't popped up and a Chase Bank ain't popped up and a Microtel. And then you get down in the oldest part of town where everybody should be enjoying themselves and there's nothing going on. So there you have it. But anyway, this is horrible. They don't support this overall policy, and if you agree, please make your voice heard. They want you. Apparently, there's going to be something on September 7th when there will be a second reading and an actual vote on these ordinances. They're going to keep us posted. In the meantime, you can take action to ensure the city of Sioux Falls adopts reasonable medical cannabis regulations. And again, they really treat it really weird. And I've been we used to do reenactments in stinking Albert Lee, Minnesota. And they still happen. I just don't do them anymore. And we used to go to the strip club. Sorry, God. The strip club. And it was right in town. I mean, if it was any further into town, it would be right next to Carmine and Hayworth's, Vintage, which is downtown here on Main. Shout out to them. They're an underwriter. And if you happen to be downtown, you're looking for like a vintage lunchbox and a bow tie nobody wears anymore, go in there and do something for them. They just got hit up by a little vandalizing, so they could use your business. Just a quick shout out. But again, Albert Lee, there would be a strip club right next to Carmine and Hayworth Vintage. But these dispensaries, which have been proven to create infrastructure and benefit people, they want them as far out of accessibility as possible. They want them just almost hidden in shame. And it's ignorance. It's really ignorance in South Dakota's leadership. And it's sad because, again, as I get farther in here, 4 states have record-breaking highs of cannabis purchases. Now, the people that said, well, it's so dangerous that people are getting killed over prices, they'll say, well, this just means more damage. But again, Colorado, Washington, California, Canada, they just keep breaking all those records for everything. Zero, less ER related, whatevers. Less workman's comp claims in legal states. And, so there you have it. And I'm going to stop talking about that. But anyway, North Dakota ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act is a petition being circulated to legalize cannabis. So if you want to get involved, sign that or be a guy who gets the signatures. If you're in South Dakota, my heart goes out to you guys. Keep pushing that, agenda, but pro-cannabis platform, because you guys, every day you don't quit is the day that I respect that you guys are going to get it done. And again, it's just ridiculous that those 5 judges have still not figured out whether or not the Amendment A violated the single subject rule. And there's no way you can tell me they don't know what they've decided. I bet you they knew the very first day, but they knew that it was going to be controversial. They knew they were going to get flack, and they knew that it would allow the pro-cannabis people to come up with other metaphorical, legal cannabis hoses and just keep, they weren't going to stop it. So that, to me, it feels strategically, created to push the deadline in hopes that pro-cannabis people would not come up with follow-up petitions when they say it did violate the single subject rule. And so that's just the way it is. But again, Flandreau, Yankton tribe, Santee tribe outside of Sioux Falls, I think. But shout out to those guys. The only dispensary so far that I know in South Dakota. You can get in there, you can get a card, you can get your things, and you can drive right out of there. Flandreau, Santee tribe, south of Fargo, kind of. Just kind of straight south of Fargo. So anyway, shout out to the Flandreau Santee tribe, Flandreau, Yankton Santee tribe, dispensary on the reservation. They're cultivating it right there. It's beautiful. So now let's talk about this cannabis moment. New Yorkers, I didn't even do that on accident. New Yorkers can smoke cannabis at this year's state fair post-legalization, officials confirmed. If carnivals aren't already kind of gnarly, and I'm not saying cannabis is gnarly, but you've got the smell of cotton candy, bad Budweiser, and 49 blunts from those 2 dudes under the Ferris wheel. I'm just saying, it's a little interesting to me. But I'm all for it. I don't even know if there's any statistics that say secondhand cannabis smoke doesn't in fact just make you a better person. You all of a sudden you're helping hold the door for people. You're considerate. You're like, man, it must have been that secondhand cannabis that I got at the New York State Fair this year. But anyway, the New York State Fair will be a little different and a lot more cannabis friendly. An official confirmed a cannabis moment on Monday that since cannabis was legalized in the state earlier this year, adults will be able to consume cannabis in any place where tobacco use is permitted. The policy change was first reported by Spectrum News. State allows cannabis use anywhere tobacco use is permitted. Dave Bullard, a spokesperson for the fair, told Cannabis Moment. Smoking is not permitted in fairground buildings or in open concert venues at Chevy Court and Chevy Park, but is allowed elsewhere outdoors. We encourage those who smoke to be considerate of others around them. And so I'm not sure what inconsiderate would mean if they're in the smoking area. In fact, somebody who doesn't smoke that wanders off and happens into the smoking section seems to be inconsiderate. Or just, dumb. Here's the formal smoking policy on the website for the New York State Fair. Smoking is not permitted in the following areas: in any building or undercover. So you can't be in a shade. Can't be in shade with your grass. In any of the picnic areas within the confines of Kittyland. Well, that's a no-brainer. Come on. It's New York State Fair Board. The Midway, the grassy area of Chevy Court, at the Veterans and 9/11 memorials, or within the state park at the fair. Smoking is permitted on the fairgrounds and other general areas that are not prohibited by New York state law. Tobacco products will not be sold anywhere on the fairgrounds. Okay. While retail cannabis shops have not yet opened in New York, there are no longer any penalties for public possession of up to 3 ounces or 24 grams of cannabis concentrates for adults 21 and older. So where is it coming from? There isn't interstate trafficking happening? Is it that stopped being illegal? That sounds stupid illegal. You're saying if you can get it from somewhere else to your hand, the act of getting it there is not my concern or the cops' concern. But if you pull somebody over on the interstate with more than 3 ounces, then you're going to probably hit them with the trafficking. Otherwise, what in the world does that even mean? You know? But anyway, home cultivation will eventually be legal as well, but not until regulators issue rules allowing it. The State Office of Cannabis Management, which was established under the legalization measure, will be creating those rules. Days after Como signed legalization into law in March, which is kind of interesting with that guy, huh? Sent a memo to officers updating them on new policies. Retail shops are expected to open next year. There have been delays in getting the board that will make the rules. It remains to be seen how quickly those initial moves could happen after Lieutenant Governor Cathy replaces Como when he steps down in the wake of that that stuff. State officials have estimated in May that New York will soon be bringing in $245 million in annual revenue. For the first year of cannabis sales, the state is expected to see just $20 million, and that will be part of an estimated $26.7 billion in new revenue that New York is expected to generate in fiscal year. So if you're thinking of checking out New York, maybe you should go during the state fair. But you're going to have to duct tape it to your hind end, or however you do it, because there's not going to be any there. However, I would imagine there would be some there. So this is the board of this is the NORML page. This is the blog by Paul Armentano. He's NORML Deputy Director. August 18th, this was produced. This is a Gallup poll. Nearly half of U.S. adults have tried cannabis. Just under half of Americans ages 18 or older acknowledge having tried cannabis, according to survey data compiled by Gallup. 49% of respondents said they have consumed cannabis, up from 1 in 3 Americans 2 decades ago. 12% of respondents identified as current consumers of cannabis. That percentage has remained stable over recent years. Younger respondents, those who identify as politically liberal and those who are non-religious, were most likely to have had prior experience with cannabis. Men, 16%, were more likely than women, 9%, to identify as current cannabis consumers. Prior polling by Gallup reports that 70% of Americans now find smoking cannabis to be morally acceptable. 68% say that its use should be legal for adults. And again, I wonder myself sometimes, it's, religious, restriction. Is it something that a religious person wouldn't be allowed to do? I would imagine it's how you're doing it. How are you living with it? If you're utilizing it for medical benefit, and that's such a broad, loose kind of thing that, anybody could be using it. And CBD is there's no argument there. But when you start adding THC, they say that's the mind altering. The Bible says be sober. However, I think with that interpretation, it means aware more than, say, drunk and stupid. It's more like be aware. But again, at the end of the day, cannabis grows out of the ground just like sunflower seeds and potatoes. And I think there's a place for all of that stuff. And where did it come from? I didn't do it. Somebody or something did it. So I say that somebody also let that come up too, just maybe not next to the potatoes. So anyway, that's just a little something there for you. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday. 4 o'clock I get in here. 4:20 open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and that's what we are ankle deep in as we speak. We're going to hit you with another NORML article. This is from August 17th. Analysis, cannabis legalization opponents' fears have not come to fruition in Canada. Concerns that legalizing cannabis for those ages 18 and older in Canada would lead to adverse public health consequences have not come to fruition, according to an analysis published in the Journal of Canadian Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. This analysis finds that there's been no marked increase in cannabis youth by youth in the 3-year period following legalization. Authors further highlight the positive societal impact of reducing cannabis-related arrests among adults, which that's a no-brainer. Regulating cannabis has also led to more targeted public health messaging. They conclude, in the lead-up to legalization, professional associations suggested that legalization posed a threat to public health, advocated for the legal age of cannabis use to be set at a minimum age of 21 or 25, and that Canada should not legalize at all because it would place youth at greater risk of harm. With such categorical fears now shown to be largely unfounded, do you hear me, people? It was found to be largely unfounded. This should provide the basis to move forward on more nuanced grounds. On the balance, cannabis legalization, especially when considering the severe adverse social impacts of criminalization, especially for youth, continues to offer the potential to better protect and achieve consequential net benefits to public health and welfare of cannabis users and society at large. Director of Normal, Eric Altieri, said, from a public health standpoint, regulation and education are preferable strategies to criminalization. Overall, adult use legalization is working largely as voters and politicians envisioned, which is why an increasing number of jurisdictions are shifting their policies in this direction. Separate assessments of cannabis legalization policy have no uptick in the percentage of motor vehicle accidents attributable to cannabis and no changes in either cannabis use or access among higher-risk youth. Additional data published in April in the journal Health Reports finds that Canadians are rapidly shifting from the illicit market to the legal market, with an estimated 70% of cannabis consumers now reporting obtaining the plant from legal sources. Analysis of state-level adult use regulation laws in the U.S. have similarly failed to find significant upticks in either youth use or access that could be attributable to legalization. Other studies have reported no association between legalization laws and any increase in either drug treatment admissions, violent crime, or overdose death. Now, that seemed pretty clear to me that A, I'm really good at reading stuff, and B, cannabis doesn't have the effects adversely that they want you to believe, which is how I start feeling towards anything the government, law enforcement, and doctors start to tell me. You know, that there isn't a natural alternative, that you have to buy Advil, that you have to buy Oxycontin, that you have to buy Xanax. And that other stuff is horrible, horrible, horrible. It has zero side effects and is mostly good for you, is not the best alternative, or that we should even look at the alternative, because I believe money is the root of all evil in those particular arenas. The prison for profit, the law enforcement system has created a money-making machine out of busting low-hanging fruit. I've said it once, I'll say it again, and man, if you come next Thursday at 4:20 when I open a big fat bag of cannabis news, I'll probably say it again. But anyway, KRFF 95.9 LPFM. RadioFreeFargo.org. You're listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson as I rip through this week's news in cannabis. And if this is the first time you're listening, I talk about this week in cannabis. I don't talk about 2 weeks ago, and I don't know the future, so I don't talk about that. So each week is going to be something covered within the week prior, and so that's what we're discussing now. Cannabis moment. 4 states report record-breaking cannabis sales in July. July was an especially productive and profitable month for the cannabis industry, with retailers making record-breaking sales in at least 4 states. Illinois, the Prairie State, saw nearly $128 million in rec cannabis purchases. People bought 2.8 million individual cannabis products in July. Maine reached 9.4 million in July, a 45% increase, which, I mean, that's like a 50%, almost half from the prior month's record. Cannabis business owners on the ground credit the 4th of July holiday, whatever, credit however you want, but these rising sales are contributing to tax revenue for the state. The Maine Office of Cannabis Policy reported $943,500 in cannabis sales tax revenue for July. Come on, that's almost $1 million that they're taking in cannabis sales. Michigan, they broke another record last month with more than $171 million in cannabis transactions. There were $128 million in adult use sales and $43 million in medical cannabis purchases in July. The prior month saw $107 million rec marijuana, cannabis and $42 million for medical cannabis. For July, the total sale translates into $23 million in tax revenue, some of which will go to infrastructure projects, public education, and individual jurisdiction. Missouri, let's talk about it. For the first time, Missouri medical cannabis sales exceeded $20 million in July. Analysis says the record-breaking figures is largely attributable to a combination of new dispensaries opening and a growing patient enrollment in the state's medical cannabis program. Well, no duh. That's kind of like the most blatantly no duh statement. Well, it's because there's more places to go and we've allowed more people to do it. Oh. July's 21st, $21 million in cannabis sales. That raises the total medical cannabis purchases in the state to about $91 million for 2021. Meanwhile, a group of Missouri cannabis activists recently filed 4 separate initiatives to put cannabis reform on the state's 2022 ballot, a move that comes as other advocacy groups are preparing separate efforts to collect signatures for cannabis ballots, petitions of their own. Still, other activists are focusing on getting the legislature to pass a resolution to place the question of legalization before voters next year. So that is really good news. Shout out to Missouri, Michigan, Maine, and Illinois getting it done, being the examples. So let me get back to where I'm at here. So let me read this quick. New Jersey regulators approve rules for adult use cannabis market. For adult use cannabis market nearly 1 year. So let's see. New Jersey regulators approve rules for adult use cannabis nearly 1 year after legalization vote. So it's been nearly a year since New Jersey voters passed a referendum, and on Thursday, regulators approved initial rules for the program. The New Jersey Cannabis Board, blah, 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 blah. They're pushing for equity and inclusivity, and industry stakeholders push for policies that don't place undue burdens on businesses as the market matures. This is just all a bunch of, it just makes me mad. I mean, what is the holdup? What gets them hemmed up? You know what I'm saying? Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. You're listening to me here. Fargo, North Dakota. The weather's high. The weather's too high as far as I'm concerned. RadioFreeFargo.org. You can stream anywhere in the world. 4:20, I open a big fat bag of cannabis news. We are at the end of it. This hour of programming on KRFF 95.9 LPFM is being underwritten by Rough Cut Social. Rough Cut is Fargo's ultimate entertainment destination for axe throwing and getting an eye poked out. Enjoy fun with family and friends, a stellar team-building excursion, or book your party. College students enjoy a discount with valid ID. Rough Cut comes complete with a full beer, wine, and soda bar for your perfect time out. Rough Cut is located at 1100 NP Avenue, Suite 102 in Fargo. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram or visit their website at roughcutsocial.com for more info. Nothing says full beer, wine, and soda bar for throwing hatchets in the air. But anyway, we appreciate your business, so give them your business. That's downtown Rough Cut Social. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, Radio Free Fargo. Here's brand new Neil Francis, Can't Stop the Rain. Dig it. Oof, to goodness. Can't Stop the Rain. Neil Francis, man, it's just a blistering slide from Derek Trucks, man. That song is banging. Brand new Neil Francis, Can't Stop the Rain. KRFF 95.9 LPFM, RadioFreeFargo.org, Moorhead, Fargo. You can stream, you can donate, you can check out what's happening on tomorrow's shows, that sort of thing. What's upcoming tonight after this is Stinky Arts Music Mart, but not today, but that's when it usually is. And then you've got Locals on the 8th, then you got Radio Madness, then you got Stinking Black Ritual. I don't know why I struggle on that so much. And this show, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, we get in here every Thursday at 4:20. We open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and this Thursday was no different. This show minus the music will be put together by Philip Kennehead Pilko, and he should have that by Sunday. We're thinking noon Sunday. So be listening for that. Canna-Talk ND on Facebook. ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act is a petition being circulated. You can get it at Orange Records. You can get it at Tochi Products, where you can sign there, which brings me to the sponsor of this show, Black Cottage Alchemy. Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook. It's got a line of products, but the body butter is what you should have, and everybody should have some of it. And you can get that at Tochi Products, or you can get it online. I suggest you get it just to show your appreciation for them, making sure you got a super cool show that talks about cannabis in a positive light on Thursdays here at KRFF. So thank you for them. And again, if you want to get your God on, you can come visit me at Antioch Church, South Fargo, 10 a.m. And educate yourself so you can educate others on the benefits of cannabis. And we've kind of brought this show to an end. However, cannabis is making moves. The 4 states, record sales. I showed you several articles where none of the fears that people were hammering and yammering about before these particular states became legal, that just were unfounded. And so, and again, it's going up more up and up and up in the elderly population because it helps for a lot of things. And I think I forgot to finish what I was going to say last Thursday, that I used a particular hemp oil to reduce inflammation when I went and got a lot of my teeth pulled, because I wasn't going to be able to get back to Mexico if there was, like, once the swelling reduced, if the partial would fit properly. So I utilized a cannabis regimen, and man, after 13 teeth and like 8 the next day, I looked exactly the same when I came out of there. Once they had fitted me for my partials, and you see my picture, I looked exactly the same. No swelling, no disformation. I looked exactly the same. I believe that was because of the inflammation, the lowering of inflammation properties, the inflammatory. the lowering of the inflammation kept me at almost exactly the same. And he had a hammer on some of them teeth. Some of them teeth didn't want to come out. I should have looked like a big, fat, stupid balloon face. But I wasn't. I look exactly the same because cannabis was working for my benefit. Not for a hangover the next day, for my benefit. Internal body benefits brought to you by cannabis and cannabis legalization. All right, well, I think I'm going to jump out of here, all right? So you've been listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Up next is just an hour of automation. Then you got Locals on the 8. Then Radio Madness. That's going to help you out a little. And then wrap it up with a little death metal, Black Ritual. Until then, educate yourself so you can educate others on the benefits of cannabis. Here's Gray Flowers Bongo Band, Down Man, Bass.